Hello there, and welcome to the Abundant Self Podcast, a podcast where we talk about everything there is to learn and to know about what it truly means to have life and life in abundance. My name is Sharon Chibai, and thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, and welcome to the Abundant Self Podcast. My good name is Sharon Chibai. If this is your very first time here, welcome, Karibu Sana, bienvenue to the Abundant Self Podcast. If this is your first time here, like I always like to say, it is my prayer, it is my hope that by the time you're done listening to this episode, that you will have made a decision to become part of the Abundant Self community. So yes, welcome, Karibu Sana, bienvenue, feel at home. This is the very final episode of 2023. At the time of recording this episode, it is the 17th of December, and Christmas is just a week away. Wow. Christmas is just a week away. Okay. I think it has just landed right now. And the fact that I'm still working next week, I mean, wow. Anyway, it's adulting, it's life. We move. But yes, welcome, feel at home. I hope you have been having a good December so far. I hope everything is going on well for you and your family. Thank you so much for the support that you have accorded the podcast this whole year. I mean, it's been beautiful. Just walking this journey with you, talking about abundance, talking about, the conversations that we've had this year. It truly has been beautiful. I know this is a solo host. It's a solo host episode, or rather it's a solo host podcast where it's just usually me alone in this car recording. And I know for very many people, I mean, even the podcasts I listen to, most of the time it's just a host and a co-host or a guest or whatever. But I think just knowing that there's another person at the end of this earphone, earpod, headphones, whether you're driving, whether you're having your run, whatever it is you're doing as you listen to this episode, I think is very encouraging. And I truly want to say thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the 104 followers that we have. I think as of the last time we recorded, we had 102. We've gained, I think, 2 followers this past 2 weeks. So thank you so much, guys. Welcome. I hope you find value here. I truly appreciate you and the support that you have accorded this podcast so far. In the previous episode, we were talking about, just how to do your 2023 review. And especially because, being the month of December, a lot of people are now thinking about their lives, thinking about their year, really. Actually, just before I recorded this episode, I was just with my sister and she was telling me she was literally just meditating about her life and just how her year has been so far. And I know that's usually the same for, everyone really during this month of December. People are just thinking about, okay, how has my year been? What have I been learning? What have I unlearned? What have I achieved? What did I not achieve? What were my goals? What were my objectives? And, most of the time there are people who, for good reason, they're usually just like, hey, man, this year has been tough. I don't want to look back. I just want to look ahead. And again, that is absolutely okay. In the previous episode, we were talking about, why it is important for you to just peep at the past every once in a while to sort of give you a better understanding of, what you need to do moving forward. And I remember we even shared in our social media a quote by Maya Angelou that says that you can never really know where you're going if you do not know where you're coming from. I hope, I feel like I have paraphrased that quote, but I hope that message hits home. So like I always like to say, if you like, you can either press pause here. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, go back to listen to the episode, or you can just listen to this episode up until the very end. And then once you're done, you can go back and check out that episode of, are you really ready for 2024? Let's talk about it. Are you ready for 2024? What is going to be better for you in 2024? What do you need to do? What are some of the things you need to be reviewing this year, even before you get to next year? So in that spirit, I thought today I would, just go back to a very, very first episode this year, which turned out to be the most listened to episode. Actually, no, the most listened to episode this year has been on, I think, dealing with the enemy within. That is on self-sabotage. You can also check that out as well. But our very first episode of the year was one of our most listened episode, and it was "It's time to shoot your shot at life in 2023." So today we are going to be asking the question, did I shoot my shot at life this year? Did I shoot my shot? Well, so just to give context for those who haven't listened to that episode yet, or those who are listening for the first time. So in the beginning of the year, I think my theme of this year has been from the verse, "Arise and shine, for your light has come and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you." So for me, in 2022, just as the year was ending last year, I decided to go for a prayer retreat. And, I remember just feeling in my spirit that God was calling me to simply arise and shine. And I decided that that was going to be the theme for my year in 2023. So essentially, I was looking at how do I put myself out there more? Because for the longest time, I think I have been operating from a place of fear, a place of, like, for example, I'm a podcaster, but I'm scared of even talking about my podcast. I'm scared of talking about my work. Like, I'm scared of people, seeing the work that I do or just knowing about what I really do. Most of the time, I just want people to know me from a face value or just like basic information. Sometimes you may meet people and you just want them to just know you up or to surface level kind of information or surface level kind of knowledge. So, and for me, it wasn't even because I don't want to let people in, but it's because I was scared. I think most of my life I've been operating from a place of fear where I don't really want people to know that I can do certain things because it sort of puts me in the spotlight. And I think if there's something that I came to learn this year is that I was not created to be in the sidelines. Like, I remember it just came to me, I think, when I was at work one day in the office. A lot of things were happening around me at work. And I remember just sitting down and saying, okay, clearly God did not create me to be on the sidelines. Like, I always find myself being put on the spotlight. And it's not even being put on the spotlight at being famous or whatever, but put on the spotlight in the sense that I am required to literally show up, where I'm called to be a leader, where I'm called to lead people, where I'm called to show my work, where literally responsibility is given to me and I'm expected to deliver. And this is a pattern that really kept happening this year. And I think I even talked about it in a follow-up episode of that episode of, episode 1 of this year, where we're talking about, I think, my experience. I think it was an episode I recorded just mid of the year, where I was talking about my, how has it been so far putting myself out there. Wait. It hasn't been easy. So it's that thing of like, you're supposed to do something. Or like for me, for example, I know God has called me this is what God has called me to do. God has called me to literally arise and shine, to not be afraid. And a verse that I have held on to my heart is, I think, 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. Is it 1 verse 7 or 1 verse 17? That says that for God does not give us a spirit of fear. He gives us a spirit of love, of power, and of a sound mind. That is a verse that has always constantly rang in my head. But unfortunately, I have been operating from a place of fear where I just feel like, wait, am I even good enough? Just going back to the conversation of imposter syndrome, am I even good enough? Like, just what if people find out that maybe I'm not, like, Ata, I ain't that serious. Like, Ata, I'm not even all that, And, sometimes you find that we spend a lot of time dwelling on what other people would say, what other people will think about us, that we forget that, we still have a calling, we still have a duty, life needs to move, and we still need to move in our purpose and what God is calling us to do. So, like, this year, God, like, literally, just even after coming out of that prayer retreat, it's like every situation I was getting myself in literally was just requiring me to put myself out there, to shoot my shot, to just tell the world, hi world, this is me. My name is Sharon Chabai. I love storytelling. I love being in spaces where I can, listen from people, listen to stories, listen to how God is transforming the lives of people. I love speaking my mind. I love sharing my voice with the world. I love talking about abundance. I love telling people and encouraging people that, hey, it is possible to live an abundant life. It is possible to live a full life. And that is something I have truly come to enjoy this year. Just that knowledge sinking in. The philosophy that we have here on the podcast, that none of us was created to just eat, sleep, pay bills, and die. Because it's unfortunate that is what we have reduced life to. And for many of us, it's because maybe we have lived in that environment, or we have been conditioned to operate in such a way when it isn't true. Some of us really, we're just letting life happen to us, and maybe it's not even our fault. Maybe it's because of the places we've grown up with, the people we've grown up with, or the people we have interacted with. But like, what happens after we have this knowledge, right? And this is something I like talking to people about. And I remember one of the ways I put myself out there this year is I actually talked about it during a retreat I was having with my friends. And I remember the guys, I even talked about it, I think, in an episode in September. I cannot remember which one. But I remember I shared that, and I said, I have a podcast called the Abundance of Podcast. And these guys were like, wow, then it truly is. It's not a coincidence that we've met, because that is also what they're all about. I mean, God has literally put me in spaces where I think he has sort of confirmed that I'm not crazy. That, baby girl, you're not crazy. This is something that needs to be talked about. And I think that whole concept of putting myself out there, shooting my shot, has just been a whole issue of obedience. It's just been a point of obedience where God is saying, this is who I want you to become, but I just need you to believe in me. I need you to trust in me. I need you to take that first step and just see the wonders that I'm going to do. And I feel like I cannot in good conscience say that I have 100% shot my shot this year, because the truth of the matter is there were days when I was afraid of my own light. There were days when I was afraid to shine. I was afraid to shine for Jesus. I was afraid to shine for God, because I felt inadequate. I felt like I wasn't capable enough to walk, the call that God has called me to walk. And I remember even thinking about it just a few minutes ago, where I was telling myself that if I had decided to dwell on who I am as an individual, my insufficientness, I don't even know if that's a word, like the areas that I'm not sufficient, the areas where, I have a lot of insecurities. If I had decided to dwell on that, then chances are I would have never started this podcast at all. And even when I pray, even as I was praying, I was telling God, I know that even with this podcast, it's not even about me. It's not even about who I am. It's not about like what I have done. It's not about like, I don't even know how to put it. it's not about the areas that I'm lacking as an individual, because the truth of the matter is there are people out there who are better speakers, better orators, they're better at doing the thing that I'm doing currently right now. But like, if I decided to dwell on that, then I would have never started this podcast in the first place. So this year has really, I feel like it has been a tough year. I have so much to be grateful for, no doubt. I have a ton of things to be grateful for. But even as I look back, I can say it's been a tough year, because it has been a very uncomfortable year for me. Just even looking at the conversations we have had this year, I think the conversations we have had this year have been more impactful in the sense that I have allowed myself to not censor my thoughts, not censor, what I have in my heart, not censor my own voice. Because previously, I think when we were starting, I was a bit unsure. Do I really want to talk about this? And I know an episode that really, really did a number on me was the episode on grief, because I think the episode on grief came after I decided to put myself out there. It came after I decided to be vulnerable. Because I remember when I was talking about grief, I was talking about how, grief sometimes we look at it from a point of, yes, losing a loved one, but grief can also be losing, a vision, losing a future that you thought maybe was yours or you thought that you would have. And I remember the reason or what triggered that episode is that I decided to shoot my shot in a certain circumstance, like really put myself out there, really be vulnerable, really speak my mind, speak my heart. And God I think he just said, nah. He just said, no, baby girl, no. This is not gonna happen. And it's one of those things where even before I walked into that situation, I prayed and I told God, whatever the outcome of this day is gonna be, let your will be done. Whatever happens, if it works out in my favor, let your will be done. If it doesn't work out in my favor, and of course, yeah, like in my favor means if it doesn't work out the way I want it to work out, because it turned out that it didn't work out the way I wanted it to turn out, but I think it was in my favor at the end of the day, because everything God does, he does it with our best interests at heart. So I really put myself out there, and it literally hit me in the face, like, where? Oh my days. Hopefully one day I can talk about it more in detail, but I feel like it's still a wound that is still very fresh in my heart. But I remember I just told myself, what is this? What is this? Like, why is this happening? And this is a vision that I had for my future for a very long time. This is something that I had wanted for my future for a very long time. But then, but just going back to that analogy of Jesus holding a very big teddy bear at the back of his hand, and he's just telling me with my small teddy bear, he's just telling me, I just need you to let this one go and just see the great things I have in store for you. So yes, I think to answer the question is that yes, I did put myself out there this year. There are instances where it went well, and then there are those instances that it did not go well. And I think those instances really did a number on me, because it was in those moments that I became even more afraid to put myself out there, to shoot my shot, because I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid of, not being good enough. I was afraid of, if people knew this, if people like, maybe people will just think I'm a joke, just battling with those thoughts. My goodness, it's crazy. It's so crazy. And then I think that one of my best instances this year is that I put myself out there about something I had been struggling with, something I thought I'd never really, share with anyone. But then I did, and the love that I received in return, I don't know if I want to call it acceptance, but just that community. I feel like this year I have also put myself out there in terms of community, in terms of, letting people in, because it's not something that I'm really good at. I'm not really good at putting myself out there in terms of being vulnerable with people and being a good friend. And I feel like God has really blessed me this year with some amazing people and people who have made this year worthwhile. So yes, I remember actually I had even spoken about it, I think in a previous episode, when I was saying that when I spoke about shooting my shot at life in 2023, mostly I thought it was just going to be about, my work, where God was calling me to not be afraid and just go out there, do the podcast. I mean, that's what I thought. But he had other thoughts in mind, because I feel like I have put myself out there, of course, in terms of my work, in terms of my relationships with God, with my friends, and with my loved ones. I have put myself out there, even with this podcast, just showing up. Let me tell you. Hey, if you guys knew the number of times I'm usually battling with myself to record an episode, I'm usually like, yes, I know this is what we're talking about today. This is what we're talking about. Like, I already knew in today's episode, we're talking about, have I shot my shot at life this year? I knew that's what we're going to talk about. But tell me why it's 10 p.m. when I'm recording this episode. Tell me why. Because I'm like, Ama, don't talk about it. Ama, watch out to the previous episode, ilikuwa the last episode. Like, even just getting in this car, pressing record, and just saying, God, you know what? It's not about me. It's about the other person listening to this episode. I have really put myself out there this year. I used to think that I am, what's this thing called? I used to think that I'm good in front of the camera. But turns out, doing audio podcasting, I feel like it's more intimate, because here, like, I'm not even concerned about you knowing how I look. Because right now I'm just in my nightgown and a sweater. And I mean, if it was maybe a YouTube video, I'd be so obsessed with, how is my makeup looking, blah, blah, blah. But here, literally, like, my guard is down. Like, I'm not feeling like I need to look a certain way. So even when I speak, I just speak, and sometimes when I come back and listen to these episodes, I'm just like, did I really tell people that? Like, mimi ndo nilikuwa naambia watu hivyo, mimi, So I have put myself out there this year, but like I said, there's a point in time when I was scared. I got scared, and it happened that time when we were celebrating our 1-year anniversary, and I took a hiatus, and then it turned out to be even more than what I had expected. But all in all, I'm happy. I have seen results, and again, the results haven't been as good. I put myself out there and just, where 2023, I put myself out there, and let me tell you, I don't even know, like, hata sijui nitasema nini. But this year has been tough, but has been the most rewarding year ever. It really has. It has been so rewarding. Like, honestly, right now I'm feeling so exhausted. I feel so tired, but I feel so fulfilled. I feel fulfilled. I know there are areas in my life where I know we still have a lot of work to do, But this episode has, not this episode, but yeah, this podcast has really shown up for me. And that is why I'm truly grateful for you who's listening to this episode. So yeah, I just felt like I needed to do that part of my life audit with you guys. And I don't know, how have you shot your shot this year? If at all you decided to also shoot your shot at life, I hope it turned out okay for you. What are some of the lessons you're learning? And, what are your big hopes for 2024? I can tell you for a fact, for 2024, I want to just press the gear. I just want to go to gear 5. I feel like I've been in gear 1, gear 2. I've just been up or 2, up or 2, up or 2, up or 2. I haven't really put myself out there. But in 2024, I feel like I want to go full on. And I want to approach life knowing that God has told me, do not be afraid. God has told me that He has great plans for me, plans to prosper me and not to harm me, but to give me hope and a future. I want to go and at life knowing that God has told me that He hasn't given me a spirit of fear, but He's given me a spirit of love, of power, and of a sound mind. How beautiful is that? And like we said, living a life of abundance is literally standing on the other side of God's promises. So I don't want to live life constantly looking over my shoulder thinking, what are people going to say? I want to collaborate with fellow podcasters more in 2024. I just want to see the lengths and just let God use this podcast to whatever lengths He wills and pleases. Because this is just literally a platform for me to serve Him. It's not even, I don't know, like, I just enjoy, it's like it's like being here and recording this episode is literally just being in God's presence. And one thing I have come to learn, I was even journaling about it, I think, the day before yesterday. And I remember seeing that being in God's presence is like, I may not even feel like I want to talk to Him. Maybe I'm having the roughest of days and I cannot even afford a prayer. I don't feel like praying. I don't feel like talking to Him. But just being in His presence. Being in His presence is just everything my soul needs. Like, it's calming, it's refreshing, it's just heaven. And that's what, like, let me tell you, you guys should see me after recording an episode. I'm usually so happy. I'm usually so happy. Okay, the episode on grief, to be honest, that one, I wasn't happy. I was just so down. I was feeling so sad. I was just, I just want to sleep. I just want to sleep. But like, every time I am done recording an episode, I usually feel so refreshed. And it just takes me back to that verse in Proverbs that says, he who waters is watered also, like just pouring into others. It doesn't mean that it depletes what you already have, but pouring into others just fills your cup as well. And every time I'm here, every time I'm recording, every time I'm speaking to my phone, I just leave. Like right now, I know I'm about to have the best sleep ever. I'm going to sleep so well, smiling, ready for a new week, ready for Christmas. That's just about it for today's episode. I wanted to keep it short and sweet. I hope you've truly had a good year. I really hope you've had a good year. And I just want to thank you again for your support and to just pray for you wherever you are. Praying that God is going to show up for you this Christmas. Like I said, I know there are very many people who maybe this year hasn't been good for you. And all you're thinking about is, let bygones be bygones. I don't want to think about 2023. Let's move on. If that is you out there, I just want to pray for you and just pray for hope, pray for encouragement, pray that God is just going to lift you up in ways that you never thought possible. Something that I love about God is that his work, the work that he does in our lives, it doesn't really have to be so exaggerated, so pronounced, so flashy where everyone sees it. Sometimes God can lift us up, lift our spirits up in the most subtle, in the most secret of ways, ways that only you and him know. When you have that relationship where you're like, only God knows about this. And I don't know, there's just a way God can lift you up that maybe no one else can and no one else needs to know. But in the depths of your spirit, you'll just know, this is God's doing. God is looking out for me. And I hope that will be your testimony this December and even going into the new year. I pray that, it's going to be a beautiful season for you, a season of hope, of encouragement, of giving, of just God pouring himself to you and for your loved ones. Yeah. And this prayer just goes out to everyone, whether you've had a good year, whether you've had a tough year. I hope that this season is truly going to come with abundant blessings, abundant love, abundant grace, abundant gifts. And I hope you will find moments to just thank God. Find moments to tell him thank you, even if it's just for one thing, even if it's just for one thing. Just tell him thank you. And I hope that 2024 will be an even better year. I don't think we'll be having a hiatus this Christmas. We'll just come back, I think, just after New Year's. Yeah, I think it's going to be on the 3rd of December. I'm not really sure, but hopefully we can be back by then. But yeah, we won't be taking really a hiatus this season. But yeah, this is to wish you a Merry Christmas. Enjoy your festive season and hoping to see you again in 2024. As per usual, I have left a feedback form, which I would so love for you to fill and let me know what have you been learning this year. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about more in 2024. I have actually already gotten some few mentions and some few suggestions on the same, which I have already put in my calendar. So 2024 will be a beautiful year for sure. Yeah. By God's grace and will, absolutely. So yes, thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, which I have said again. And like I always like to say, if you remember nothing else, no. No, we're not ending the episode yet. Kindly be sure to follow, rate, and share this podcast from everywhere you listen to, anywhere you listen to your podcasts from. We currently have 104 followers. Thank you so much for following us on Spotify. And you can also check us out on our social media channels, that is on Facebook and Instagram and on X at The Abundant Self Podcast. We also have a WhatsApp channel, which is just a special little community of listeners that we have of the podcast. So if that is something you're also interested in, then you can follow our WhatsApp channel. I have left a link to that and the show notes. So yes, thank you everyone. My good name has been Sharon Cho. Bye. I hope to see you and hear you more in 2024. And like I always like to say, if you remember nothing else from today's episode, I hope you remember that you have been called to have life and life in abundance, and that I am rooting for you. See you 2024. Bye.